You look like a mess at the bottom. Haha. Emma said that, and, while I was still on duty, she poured the can of beer she had onto my head and laughed loudly. My name is John. My parents divorced when I was just beginning to understand things, and I was taken in by my mother, growing up in a single-parent household. I still don't know the reason for their divorce. I just vividly remember my mother crying on the night my father left. So, I never thought to ask about the cause of the divorce. Being in a single-parent household meant that my mother had to earn the amount that a father in a typical family would bring home all by herself. My mother worked multiple part-time jobs, tirelessly providing for me to have a comfortable life from morning till night. Seeing my mother's efforts, even though I was young, I felt that I couldn't waste her hard work. I diligently focused on my studies, even if it meant sacrificing things I wanted. I secretly wished to play soccer, but I feared it would affect my academics, so I never joined the club. Looking back, I realized that we didn't have the financial means to afford soccer gear like spikes or uniforms, so not joining was the right decision. I didn't buy reference books or attend supplemental classes like the other kids around me, but thanks to my natural intelligence and exceptional memory, I consistently ranked at the top of my class throughout my 6 years of elementary school. However, my mother, despite juggling multiple part-time jobs, never became a contract employee or received promotions or bonuses. Our life never improved. So, even as I entered junior high school, our family remained poor. In elementary school, I wore tattered clothes because we had no school uniforms. By the time I reached the upper grades, my classmates and teachers had figured out that I was from a poor family. Fortunately, in junior high school, most students wore school uniforms and carried designated school bags, which spared me from being singled out as poor in public. One day, during my second year of junior high, as the end of middle school approached, Emma, the most popular girl not only in our class but in the entire grade, approached me and said, "You're John, right?" Well, yes. Since I attended a different elementary school in a different district, I struggled to fit in from the beginning and had no friends, spending my time focused on my studies. At that time, of all people, I was approached by the popular girl, Emma, so I couldn't hide my nervousness. Whether she noticed my state or not, Emma continued without any concern. "John, how much do you usually study?" "Well, I arrive at school as soon as it opens, do some preview for the day. Then after school, I review the material before going home, and I keep studying until bedtime. That's the routine." "Wow, that's impressive. So, is that why you're so smart? Your name is always at the top of the test rankings, but I had no idea what kind of person you were, so I was curious." Saying that, Emma, who laughed, was cuter than any other girl I had met so far. From that day on, Emma started visiting me almost every day, saying she wanted me to teach her. Gradually, we moved beyond just studying, and we began talking about various topics, including life and relationships. As we moved up to the third year and ended up in the same class, we decided to start dating. I never imagined that I would have a girlfriend during my middle school years, especially not before making friends, and the fact that she was Emma was beyond my expectations. However, I always kept in mind that I couldn't let my studies suffer just because I had a girlfriend, so my grades didn't drop. Our relationship was going well, but it came to an abrupt end one day. On a holiday, we were going on our first date as a couple. Since it was a day off and we would be meeting in casual clothes instead of our uniforms, I wanted to decline, but I reluctantly agreed, thinking that Emma was attracted to my intelligence. However, when Emma arrived late at our meeting place and saw me, her reaction was different. "Sorry for being late," she began, but then she looked at me in shock. "What's with that outfit?" It was understandable. Because, at that moment, I was wearing a tattered t-shirt with a stretched-out neckline and shabby jeans, a far cry from a stylish look. However, I couldn't help but think that there was some way I could avoid the situation and said, "Well, you know, I'm not really interested in clothes. Besides, I have this thing for studying, and I don't really go out." Nevertheless, Emma didn't seem convinced, and she said, "I had a vague idea, but I didn't think you were this poor." On that day, Emma was shining from head to toe, and everything she wore was branded. Come to think of it, Emma's family was wealthy, and she was what you'd call a CEO's daughter, I recalled. Recognizing how shabby my own appearance was in comparison, I was overwhelmed by embarrassment. "I can imagine walking next to a guy like this. I'm sorry, but I can't date you anymore. Goodbye." With those words, Emma walked away, and we broke up. Life at school after that was hell. Thanks to Emma, who was at the top of the social hierarchy, my family's poverty was exposed to the entire grade. But that wasn't the worst part. With Emma targeting me as her enemy, people around her began to follow suit, mocking me and eventually subjecting me to considerable harassment and exclusion. According to Emma, it was payback for her humiliation. By looking down on me, the top student in the grade, she aimed to elevate herself and maintain her own status. However, I found it terrifying how her act of revenge escalated to involve the entire grade. The harassment I endured was relentless and took various forms, such as Emma opening windows wide, saying, "The air gets bad when John is around," hiding my textbooks and indoor shoes, and mocking me with comments like, "Did you lose them? Well, just buy new ones. Oh, it's sorry, my bad. You can't afford it, can you?" The list of harassment was endless. And it continued until graduation. Despite the challenging circumstances, the reason I kept going to school without giving up was my determination not to waste my mother's efforts. So, I focused even more on my studies, determined to protect my position as the top student, and I maintained that position by a wide margin. So, with that in mind, I occasionally gave myself a pep talk to overcome my fears and somehow managed to graduate. After graduation, while I did have the desire to go to high school and continue my studies, I thought that pushing my mother any further would eventually take a toll on her health. So, I abandoned my desire to study and decided to work as an employee at a hotel. My workplace was a well-known luxury hotel, and thanks to my mother's connection with the hotel's president, I was given the opportunity to work there, despite having only completed middle school. Mr. Smith, the CEO, was an exceptionally capable individual who not only managed this hotel, but also several others. Furthermore, he was incredibly strict. This wasn't because I was still a child with only a middle school education. It was Mr. Smith's management philosophy and the key to his success, as the senior employees explained. So, no matter how much I was scolded, I continued to work without getting discouraged. Being a luxury hotel, there was a lot to learn, especially regarding guest etiquette. However, with everything drilled into me, I gradually stopped receiving scoldings. "John sure has a good memory, right, Mr. Smith? If he couldn't handle this much, he wouldn't even be worth considering." No matter how much I grew, Mr. Smith never once praised me. However, I remained determined to redirect the passion I had devoted to my studies into my work and dedicated my entire life to it. Sometimes, I made mistakes, and I faced shouts from other employees, but I never backed down and wholeheartedly embraced the challenges. One day, when Mr. Smith and I were standing at the front desk together, he muttered as if to himself, "Maybe we should start another hotel." Hearing that, I silently thought that I should learn from his spirit of taking on new challenges and resolve to work even harder. And so, 15 years passed, and it was my 30th birthday. As I stood at the front desk, Emma entered through the hotel's automatic sliding doors, with a man by her side. While there was a possibility they were married given their ages, I couldn't see any ring on Emma's left ring finger, so the man was likely her boyfriend. As Emma approached, my heart raced, and my forehead broke into a sweat. Finally, they reached me. "Hey, isn't that John?" "Oh, Emma, it's been a while." "I can't believe you're working here, you." who was so poor and only had a middle school education. With those words, just like in the past, Emma mocked me and then boasted about her boyfriend, who was an elite employee at a large company and had an annual income of $200K as they checked in. Although I had to carry the guest luggage to their room, I did so reluctantly without showing any emotion on my face. I endured a stream of insults on the way but pretended not to care. Meeting Emma and being reminded of my unpleasant past on my birthday was truly disheartening. Even though I was at work, I couldn't help but feel a little down, and my concentration wavered. Several hours later, during my break, Mr. Smith came into the break room and said he wanted to talk. After the break, when I returned to work, Emma appeared in the lobby again. Blushing and with slightly unsteady steps, it was clear that she had been drinking somewhere. That is typical Emma. I knew that dealing with her would be even more troublesome if she got drunk. Sitting heavily on the sofa in the lobby, Emma, holding a can of beer in her right hand, took a swig and then, upon spotting me, started to meddle as usual. "So, I wanted to ask, how long have you been working here?" "Since right after middle school." "Huh, that explains why nobody talks about you. I was actually looking forward to gossiping about you and your family in high school." "Haha, stop it." All I could muster was a dry smile in response. I didn't want to chat too much since I was on duty, and even though I knew her, I wished she would just go away. Still, Emma seemed intent on venting her frustration that had been pent up for 15 years, and she didn't let the conversation drop. If I had known a lowlife like you worked here, I wouldn't have stayed. This is the worst. Why are you at the front desk? You're more suited to be a cleaning staff." I thought Emma wouldn't stop even if other guests came, so I left the front desk and approached her. "Please keep your voice down. There are other guests around." "What? Why should I listen to you?" The next moment, Emma stood up and, saying you don't deserve to wear such a nice uniform, poured her half-finished beer over my head. "There you go. A ragged look suits the likes of you." Emma laughed loudly. She looked just like a witch. Seeing this, other employees hurried over to me. But I stopped them. "I'm fine." "But you're soaking wet." "Yeah, I'll go change real quick." I glanced at Emma, saying you've had too much to drink, and left. After changing, I returned to the front desk, and Emma was still sitting on the sofa. That's when her boyfriend came in, excitedly saying, "There's an awesome car parked outside. It's black and looks really slick. Must be custom made." "Really? I won't be surprised unless it's a luxury car. My dad has tons of them." They bantered, looking outside through the automatic doors. Then, several men in suits got out of the luxury car. Their suits looked so expensive that I thought some VIP must be staying here, and watched them enter. However, the group in suits headed straight for the front desk. Stopping in front of me, among the 3 employees, they said, "Mr. President, John, we've come to pick you up." Huh? I was initially bewildered, unable to grasp the situation. But there was no one behind me. So, it seemed the words were directed at me. Then Emma came from behind, saying, "What? This guy's the president? Guys, you've got the wrong person. He's just a poor lowlife who barely got a job at this nice hotel because he's doomed to never achieve anything more." The men looked confused at her drunken rant. "Do you know her?" one of them asked me, and I replied, "She's an old middle school classmate, sort of." "Sort of. Don't get cocky just because you were bullied." Just as Emma lunged forward, Mr. Smith appeared behind her, gently holding her shoulder, and said, "Please calm down." "Mr. Smith, what's this all about?" "Actually, I've been keeping a secret until your birthday today. I'm planning to entrust you with the new wing opening next month." I remembered when I first joined the company, Mr. Smith had muttered about starting a new hotel. When the new hotel was confirmed, I admired how amazing he was. I never dreamed he would entrust it to me. I've always been impressed with her work since you joined right out of middle school. Choosing to work at such a young age was normal in my generation, but it took courage for yours. Yet, you made up your mind and have been a great help here. I was tough on you because I wanted you to aim higher. I thought you were capable enough to handle the new project. Mr. Smith then held my hand and said with a kind expression, I'm counting on you, and happy birthday. I couldn't stop my tears. I felt recognized by Mr. Smith, who had always been strict, and for the first time, I thought all my hard work had paid off. After gently patting my shoulder, Mr. Smith turned to Emma and said, I hate to break it to you, young lady, but your father's company, the Williams Group, might be facing some tough times ahead. What? Nonsense. Dad wouldn't mess up. This is so irritating. Let's go. With those bitter words, Emma left with her boyfriend. Later, I was taken out for a meal by Mr. Smith. There, I learned that the Mr. Smith's company had business dealings with the Williams Group. However, the Williams Group was famously involved in tax evasion in the area, and upon learning this, Mr. Smith immediately ceased all transactions. A few days later, I saw in the news that the tax evasion by the Williams Group had been exposed. Emma's father was arrested. Their company went bankrupt, and I heard Emma was left with a significant debt. From what I've been told, she's now wearing ragged clothes and trying her best in various ways. If I see her again, I might treat her to a meal, calling it a continuation of the date we never had. Looking in the mirror, I tightened my tie, gave my cheek a slap, and pumped myself up, thinking, I'm the president starting today.